Welcome to RAD Builds, everyone. Today, I'm going to show you how to make the Crysknife from Dune. Now, this is actually really easy to make, and you can follow along with the steps in this video to make one yourself. And now, without further ado, let's get to it. For this build, I used 10mm foam, a wooden dowel, super glue, a pencil, an x-acto knife, Scotch tape, a heat gun, a dremel with a sanding bit as well as a stone bit, 100 grit sandpaper, black plasti spray paint, white paint, silver paint, black paint, another type of black paint, tan paint, gray paint, brown paint, paint brushes, a paper plate to paint on, a paper towel, and finally the patterns linked in the description. First I cut the two pieces of the pattern apart, and then I taped them together with some Scotch tape. Once I cut out the pattern, I traced it onto the 10mm foam. Then I cut this piece out with an x-acto knife. Now I am bending the wooden dowel slightly and then pressing it into the 10mm foam. This leaves a mark so that I can come back with my dremel and grind out a spot for the wooden dowel to fit in. Then I placed the wooden dowel in this spot and flipped the piece over onto the other piece of foam. Then I pressed down once again to leave a mark where I could come back with my dremel to grind out. I tested the fit of the wooden dowel in between the two pieces of foam, and once I determined it was good, it was time to glue everything together. First I placed glue into the hole that the dowel would go into, and then I put some along the rest of the foam. Then I took a scrap piece of foam and smeared the glue to make the entire surface of the foam adhesive. After that, I took an x-acto knife and roughly trimmed down the foam to where it was supposed to be. Then I took my dremel with its sanding bit and sanded down the bottom piece until its edges matched those of the top piece. Now I am cutting the blade and a section of the handle off of the pattern. Then I trace the leftover portion onto the foam knife. I did the same thing on the other side. Next, I sanded out the mark spot on the handle and sharpened down the blade. The blade takes a very long time to sand, but it's worth it to get the look. Here's what it looks like when I'm done sanding. Now I'm switching the sanding bit out with the stone bit on the dremel. I'm going to use this bit and sand down the entire knife. Stone bits do a very good job of smoothing down rough foam and prepping it for paint. Here's what it looks like when I'm done. There were holes where the two pieces of foam didn't quite get glued together, so here's what I did. I placed glue inside and around the hole and then sprinkled lots of sanding dust over it. When the glue dried, I sanded down the lump created until it was smooth with the rest of the foam. I didn't like how flimsy the tip was, so I covered it in super glue. And then used a scrap piece of paper to spread around the glue until it was flat because I did not want any bubbles to form. When this glue dries, it becomes sturdy and hard to break, so it's perfect to coat the tip in. I coated a large portion of the blade, and here's what it looks like when I'm finished. Now it's time to score on the engravings. So what I did is I taped the pattern onto the foam. Once I was done with that, I used my x-acto knife and I scored on the engravings. When I was finished, I removed the pattern very carefully. And here's what the engravings look like. I also taped on the blade portion of the pattern, and once again used my x-acto knife to score on those engravings. Here's what it looks like now. On the other side, I taped on the pattern upside down and followed the cut lines already made. I also frequently added more tape to keep the pattern from falling apart. And I did the same thing with the handle. Now I'm using the sanding bit on the dremel and lightly scratching the foam. This makes the handle look more worn and realistic. Now I am using a heat gun to seal the foam. Sealing the foam is very important because it prepares the foam for paint, and the heat gun also opens up the score lines made, which makes the engravings much more eye-catching and prominent. I also heated up certain parts of the handle and then jabbed the foam with Baldo paper. This creates an uneven surface on the handle and makes the knife look more worn and lifelike. The final step before painting is to make the streaks along the blade. To do this, I just used a pencil and started at the hilt and quickly dragged the lead up the blade. Make sure each streak is one quick motion and always restart at the hilt to avoid any unevenness. And now your Crysknife is ready to be painted. First, I coated the entire Crysknife in black plasti with spray paint. Next, I coated the blade in a thin coat of tan paint. Now I'm coating the inner part of the handle with some brown paint. After that, I mixed white paint with gray paint and added a thin coat of this mixture to the blade. I did a bit too much, so I rubbed some of it away with my paper towel. Next, I painted the tip of the blade with white paint. After that, I added brown paint around the base of the blade next to the hilt and used my paper towel to smear the paint away from the hilt towards the tip of the blade. And I did the same thing with some black paint. I added a little bit of black paint onto the inside of the handle to give it a little bit more depth. I painted the outer part of the handle gray, and then I painted silver over top of that. I went back and did a little bit of more detail work on the blade. And finally, I painted tan highlights on the inner part of the handle. And once you're done with this, your Crysknife is complete. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my new video releases. And if you have a suggestion for something for me to make, you can leave it in a comment down below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time on RAD Builds.